I hope you all enjoyed the roadmap. We're quite excited. But we're really excited about this session because a lot of what I mentioned, Nog, Christy, and Make has mentioned, we talked a lot about intelligence, AI. And so our brain trust is going to talk about how this all happens behind the scenes. So we're going to have a little bit of fireside chat, a little bit of conversation here. And so to do that, I'm going to introduce Sanjay Parmar, our CTO, Chief Technology Officer, and Fei Shah, our Vice President of AI and Engineering. Please join me on stage. Great. So, before we get started, we want to make sure we level set. We want to make sure everyone's operating with the right information. So we're going to do a little bit of a pop quiz. So I hope you all are ready. So if I can ask you all to pull out your phones and to join us at Slido, code LENS 2024. We're going to have a quiz, and we'll see who the winner is, and prize to be determined at the very end. We ready? All right, let's get started. Oh, okay. We will hold on. We got some people joining. Okay, we good? All right. If our team in the back can launch our quiz. First question, what was one of the earliest uses of AI in education? Give that a few seconds for everyone to. All right, let's show the results. There we go. Correct answer is A, grading multiple choice questions. All right, next question. Team in the back? There we go. Okay. Which of these is a real application of AI in education, not science fiction? All right, let's see what the results. Our team in the back, let's show some results here. Correct answer is C, AI tutors that adapt to each student's learning style. All right, next question. We have 5, so pretty quick, and then we'll dive in. Which of the following tasks can AI not yet do in education? All right, let's see the results. Oh, all right. Correct answer is C, cannot replace humans entirely. And next question, how can AI enhance the effectiveness of corporate training programs? All right, let's see the results. Oh, okay, correct answer is analyzing employee performance. That is correct. All right, I think we have one last question. So for all the marbles, which of the following best describes the relationship between NLP, LLM, ChatGPT, and OpenAI? All right, correct answer is? Was that a typo on my part? Got it. Congratulations to Nick. Nick, wave your hand. Where are you? All right, congratulations, you are our winner. Actually, no, we have a bunch. You're tied. So come find me after, and I will give you a surprise. I'll buy you a drink for the quiz. But let's dive in, because we have a really important discussion that we want to have. So let's go ahead. We'll just leave this up. If we can exit out of Slido and pull up our slide. We'll leave this up here so that you can find us later if you have any questions. But Okay, so let's start chatting about AI and shaking things up in the learning space. So, Faye.
Yes.
Have you ever thought about how the AI craze compares to big changes in the past?
Absolutely. This morning, actually, Sanjay and I, we were sitting with Wendy. I don't know whether Wendy is. Hi, Wendy. So we were just talking about it, how things have changed in the last 100 or so years, like starting from the Industrial Revolution. People started leaving their farm work and went for factory jobs, right? We see cars instead of horses on the street, on the road. And then computer become popular in everyday life. And then people started using keyboard more and less than pens, right? I now definitely use keyboard more than pens. And then the internet boom came. And then instead of going to the libraries, people now, go to the internet to find information. I can remember the last time I went to a library to look for information. And just the way people live and work changed so drastically, so fast in the recent 100 years. And AI is bringing over even more changes to the way that we work, the way that we live. And regarding learning, it changed so much too, right? In the old days, people had to go to a kind of a classroom in a physical location at specific times to take classes, to take training programs. And now people can take virtual classes in a virtual space, meet people with remotely, and have a learning group online. So the way we work, we live, we learn have changed so much. And Sanjay told me a story. Sanjay has been in the workforce learning industry for over 2 decades, and he told me some stories about how workforce learning has transitioned over the years.
Yeah, at least I had the opportunity to work with at Saba for more than 15 years. I know I met many of you who still use Saba. So I was the engineer, and my team was the one that built Saba behind the scenes. So of course, I started my career in '99 when just internet was just coming up. But if I look back, like if you rewind the history of the corporate learning, going back to all the way from 1940s. Okay, 1940s, pretty much you had when you look at the corporate training, only few people had access to the training, and only kind of compliance and safety and few procedures were getting digitized, right? Getting people kind of trained on. Then you fast forward 1960s and 70s, then okay, now enterprises have now formalized the training, now expanding the training to reach more people, whether it's sales, whether it's operations, whether it's customer service. Then comes the 1980s. That's pretty much when I don't know how many of you remember, at least I don't remember, I did not participate in that, which is the CBTs, the personal computers came, and CBTs were the big hot thing, and that was the early kind of digitization of the learning. And then the internet came in 90s, and then that led the development of LMS that gave the power to the enterprises to organize, to track, and deliver the training at scale. And not only that, now you can train more and more people within the enterprise to pretty much do whatever processes that you need to do. And now in 2000, pretty much the explosion of the content happened, and that gave rise to the LXPs, and that's where Degree kind of participated in that, brought all the content together, and delivered a personalized training to the users. And of course, during that journey, the mobile learning also happened, and pretty much that gave access to the businesses and made the training available to all the frontline and the deskless people, with people inside the factories, outside the factories. And now here we are in 2024. AI is in front of us. And AI has the promise of making sure that pretty much how enterprises create content, how you deliver personalized training, and of course, how the users get the real-time feedback. So that's where we are kind of in that transition. So AI is kind of driving a generational shift in how people in the enterprise work. And in my daily life, of course, I'm still a builder. I write software. So I use the tool called GitHub Copilot. And pretty much, I remember the early days of my career writing code. And now here you have Copilot. And pretty much, even before I kind of type few words, and it's kind of writing the code for me, right? So we're in that transition. So it's an exciting time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's really fun looking back to see how things have changed, but you said something quite important about using GitHub, Copilot, coding. So that leaves us with, if we look forward with AI moving so fast, how can folks keep up without turning into overnight techies?
Yeah.
And having to be Sanjay.
Yeah. And that is the kind of a scary question to a lot of people, right?
Yes.
A lot of us like, oh, do we all need to be tech savvy to be, to have a computer science degree in order to catch this AI train? And that's exactly the beauty of Gen AI. We don't have to. You don't need a PhD degree in data science or a master in computer science to be able to work with AI and Gen AI today. And that's exactly the amazing thing Gen AI is enabling everyone to do. It's giving everyone a leg up. So imagine, let's see, for instance, if you were a owner of a general store, a grocery store, okay, and you have a big market. Let's say you want to understand how to stock up your inventory for next quarter, or what customers are going to buy as hot items next year. You want to make those predictions. Today, you may have to hire a data scientist or a data analyst to pull the data, run the SQL to give you the information. But with Gen AI, you don't have to. You can just ask in plain English or in plain Spanish, any language, in layman language, ask, hey, tell me, what's the hot item next month or next year? And Gen AI will translate that layman language to computer, so computer understands what you mean and go to the right database, pull up the right information, and give you that insight. So you do not need absolutely a PhD degree in data science, data analyst. You don't need to know SQL to answer those questions. And that is what we mean that generative AI is giving everyone a tool in their toolbox.
Just to add into that, there are two fundamental things that are happening from the technology perspective. So one is, of course, the human-computer interaction. Of course, we have all dealt with form-based experience, browser, and all of that. But now we are dealing with this natural language. So natural language now makes it accessible to all the users to interact with the computer in a more natural format, right? So that's one big fundamental shift is happening. So more and more experiences are kind of transitioning to this ChatGPT-like experience, conversational interface, right? The second thing is about the reasoning engine, meaning that now computers understand, they see things, they can make kind of decisions about for you, right? And that's a fundamental kind of output of the LLMs, right? Where the generative AI, they can understand the data, they can give you information so that you can make better decisions. So those are the two fundamental shifts that are happening from technology that's enabling this transition.
Awesome. I promise we have some pretty provocative questions, so we're getting there. But let's dive deeper into how AI is shaping the way we learn at work. Can you break down how data and AI are making training better for us at work?
Yeah. You want me to start?
Yes.
Okay, you want to dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with data.
Okay.
So data, provide basically insight especially regarding learning and development. Data provides us with insight of how people learn. Every person learns in their different ways. So data gives us that understanding of how each learner absorbs information, consumes information in the best way. And that insight and understanding allows the business, allows the learning and development professionals to design and custom the learning experience for each learner. And this unique, customized, personalized learning experience will make each learner feel, hey, this unique training program is just made for me and is helping me to learn the best. And that just made the learning experience more enjoyable and more effective. Now let's get to generative AI. Let's try to, this morning I had so many interesting conversations with some of you, and people are using generative AI already in very creative ways. One way, for instance, one example, let's see your customer service team in your organization. We pretty much all have client experience teams, customer experience teams. Let's say this team need to kind of improve or train on their experiences handling tough customer calls. Okay, so what generative AI can do is to set up, launch a virtual environment, simulate that real experience, and allow your client experience team to go in there and play with generative AI. So you can ask generative AI to play the role as the tough customer, asking a lot of challenging questions, and your teams go in and just see how they can handle those questions. Or you can play the reverse roles, ask you play as the tough customers. You come up with all challenging questions and ask generative AI to play the role as the customer service folks to handle the situations. And then your teams can learn from the way that the machine, the AI handles these situations. And your team can be there and practice and learn and feel and then improve and then train again to just practice in this real world situation, but without the stress from the real world situation. And that's the beauty of it. And they can learn and train and boost their confidence again without being stressed out and getting ready for the real situations.
Just to add into that, I think ultimately, as Faye said, AI needs data. And of course, Degree has pretty much worked with many of you to collect a lot of your data from your kind of interactions of the users, the content they've taken, the learnings that they've taken, right? So all of data now that feeds into the kind of modeling our AI models and all of that to deliver the personalized experience.
Yeah. Exciting.
Yeah.
All right, so I promised some hard, provocative questions, so here we go. You guys ready? All right, so in today's AI market, with so many AI tools and no-code platforms, why should anybody here pay for a SaaS learning platform instead of just crafting their own L&D solutions using off-the-shelf AI tools?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Actually, I was sitting next to Van at lunch, and she asked exactly that question. And that is totally reasonable, right? With GPT-4 now available, I think it's $20 per month. Your employees can all go in there and ask all sorts of questions and get answers. So why should you pay for a learning platform to do that for you? Well, there are many reasons. The primary reason is a genetic tool. When you go, your employees go to GPT-4, what you get is a generic answer. So for instance, let's say you ask, GPT-4, what are the skill set needed for a data scientist? Every employee is going to get exactly the same set of skills, right? But does that match your company's business objectives? Does that meet your company's standard, your skill libraries, your content catalog? So those customization and fine-tunings are what Degree will be offering to you. And we have great resources, we have budget to put together a team that focus on fine-tuning those general purpose tools to fit exactly what your team needs, what language, skills language that you speak to your employees, and to make sure the learning recommendations align with your business goals and your training objectives. So that's just one aspect of it. Another aspect is when you think about, DIY your tool. It may sound like a very good idea, especially with the available tools today on paper, but putting things together may be a different story. Today in your companies, especially the large ones, you may have the resources or the tools for many of the different elements. For instance, you may have a data engineering team already that can feed the data to GPT. You may have a data security team that can help you to protect your data. You may have resources that can go in and QA team to go in and double check the result of the recommended learnings. But putting all these things together takes a lot of effort. And that is where Degree comes in. Degree has over a decade of experience to combine all these pieces together, and we have learning experts who dedicated to not only provide you a learning platform, but one platform that is very safe, that meets your need, that aligns with your culture, and that's dedicated to making sure your employees, your workforce gets training in a safe space, and also to enable the learning professionals to get insight. That's the part, the reporting and insight, to get the insight on how their employees learn and how their employees best learn. And so, in that sense, wouldn't it be more efficient for you to get a service that's already set up instead of spending your resources and putting together a team, basically building a startup within your company that's driving a learning kind of a platform building?
I think the other thing is, from the enterprise perspective, of course, we as a solution provider, it's our job to abstract away all the complexity that exists. So as Faye mentioned, whether it's aggregating the data, training the data, building the models, and building the experiences, all of that. So there's a lot of complexity there. And then it's our job to kind of simplify that for you as a solution provider. Now, other thing is that as we simplify that, it's also important that we bring the enterprise aspects, whether it's about access control, audit trail, who did what. All of those pieces also we bring into the platform so that it makes it easier for you to roll out the technology to your end users. So enterprise aspect is an important element of building the platform.
It's a compelling argument for not going at it alone. So Sanjay, this one is to you. With so many other learning platforms jumping on the AI bandwagon, how can Degreed stand out from the crowd?
That's a good question, Don. So at least, of course, at Degreed, we have taken the stance of pretty much collecting a lot of data, whether it's the user interaction data, whether it is the content that we have aggregated in your deployment, right? So of course, we know a lot of interactions, a lot of employee data, a lot of content interaction data. So we are in the best position to deliver the best-in-class recommendations, the next steps, the personalized learning, right? And of course, Nag and the team mentioned about the automation. So when you have more and more data, it makes it easier to kind of automate and scale your processes, right? So we're in that unique position to leverage that data and help you automate and scale your processes. So that's why pretty much I think you should be choosing Degreed.
Awesome. We're going to skip ahead because I know that we've got some other important topics we want to cover. So earlier in some of your answers, we mentioned security, data privacy. I'm sure this is all top of mind with many of our clients here today. So data breaches have become frequent headline news nowadays. So how does Degreed ensure that the security and compliance of AI and data systems is maintained?
Yeah. So that's a hot topic. Compliance and security is a hot topic, and it's definitely been the top priority at Degreed. We have dedicated team to crack this, to be on top of this. Our data and AI teams work very closely with our data privacy teams and security teams. They meet regularly, and our goal is to not only catch up with the regulations, meet the regulations. We want to stay ahead of the game to be not being reactive to these regulations, but to be proactive to take actions to protect the data and AI responses.
I think to add into that, I think as we embrace this AI into our platform, means we are going to kind of make our decisions in terms of 3 core pillars. So one is, of course, responsible AI. Accuracy is important, and then transparency. So we want to make sure that what data we use to train our models, how you inform the users about the recommendations. So we want to be transparent as much as possible, all the way from experience to the security to how we handle the data and how we store the data, right? And then accountable, making sure that pretty much whatever data we're gathering, of course, we want to be, you have entrusted us with all the data that you've given us. So we want to make sure that none of that data leaves the boundaries of our infrastructure. We don't send it to any public models like GPT and all of that. So whatever data that you give us, it's your data, and we're going to make sure that your data never leaves those boundaries, right? So we want to be accountable for that. We will be accountable for that, and yeah.
Yeah, Yep. And we are exploring a lot of options. And for instance, when we are evaluating which generative AI tools and models we want to build, and how do we fine-tune those models and apply those models, some of the options that we are considering is also customized, fine-tuned large language models catered toward each organization. So your specific data feeds into a large language model, and we fine-tune it and in a siloed space, secure space, just for your organizations. So those are, absolutely some of the options that we are exploring on our roadmap.
Awesome. So when we think about interacting with our users, because that's my world, how do we maintain a respectful and safe conversation with our users using AI?
That is some of the AI guardrails, large language guardrails come in. So for instance, our AI teams constantly work on prompt engineering and prompt detecting systems. And for instance, with our AI assistant, great assistant, this prototype that we're building, our team is constantly on the lookout to look for anything that may be off key, and they want to make sure that this assistant is what we call the world's politest conversation partner with our client, with our user. It's smart, it's helpful, but also very, very respectful. And we also watch out, constantly monitor the responses that these AI generates to make sure these responses are accurate and on the point, and they don't hallucinate, right? So we definitely have a human in the loop strategy. We don't just rely on automated systems to QA the accuracy and performance of our AI processes. So before we release any AI models, we always have real people to evaluate and validate the model results. And we compute industry standard accuracy statistics to keep track of the performance and accuracy of our models. And after the AI systems, AI features are launched, we also have human in the loop approach. Our AI teams work very closely with the product team. We design systems to collect user feedback, and based on those user feedbacks, we retrain our model, continuously improve our AI systems to make sure our models don't deteriorate and don't become irrelevant.
And from the architecture perspective, what we're going to do is we're going to build a trust layer within our stack. So that trust layer will be responsible for any time a user interacts with the system in the language, whatever that they choose. Now, so that's a prompt. Now, whenever that prompt reaches for the kind of completion in terms of serving that need, right, we'll make sure that that prompt does not have any personal information data, any of that data that has been can compromise the security. So we'll do all the sanitization before it reaches the system. And once the system generates the response, we'll also make sure that when the data is sent to the user, we'll do all the sanitization and making sure that there's no security breaches and all of that. So that trust layer will be responsible for making sure that the safety, the bias, the toxicity, all of that has been taken care of in the trust layer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we've talked about AI, how we think about it, being ethical, how it shows up with privacy in our platform. So let's switch gears a little bit, and I'll give a little intro. In a former life, I spent a big chunk of my career working in higher education, and we pushed out adaptive learning models. And I got to partner with some of the world's best educators, and there was a huge feeling of, my job's gone. I don't need to be here. I don't need to be in the classroom. And one of the things that we found was, no, you're actually needed more than ever. It's just a different way of delivering learning. So with that in mind, should people in learning and development start worrying about their jobs going away?
Of course, the answer is no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, right? Again, we were talking about historical changes at the beginning of this conversation. And if you remember, there was a time when everyone was using paper maps. We didn't have GPS, we didn't have Google Maps, Apple apps, right? So there used to be map makers who make these paper maps. Right? With the transition from paper maps to digital maps, did all those map makers disappear? No, actually, a lot of them shifted their skills and brought their expertise into building the GPS, building the digital maps, and their expertise just helped to make these GPS systems, make these Google Maps more reliable, more accurate. So AI and generative AI is going to change the way we live and we work. And we all need to get onto the AI train. And the best way to do that is to team up with AI to try to make use of AI in our daily work, to allow it to help us to do more in less time and make ourselves easier to get, it can help us to get rid of those tedious kind of jobs. I was joking with Van again at lunch table. I was saying, hey, there must be some work in my work. Definitely, there are tedious, tasks that I wish I would have a personal secretary or assistant that can delegate those work, do that assistant. And generative AI and AI can be that personal assistant for every one of us. We delegate these tedious tasks to AI, to generative AI, so that we can enjoy the fun part of our jobs and our lives.
Awesome. So I think we're near a close. Before I open it up to the floor for questions, Sanjay, any final thoughts?
From my side, I think, it's an exciting ride. And with AI, assistants, co-pilots, whatever you want to call it, there's not going to be any kind of, there's so much we can do to shape the future of learning. So.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
All right, so we'll take some questions. All right, we got some mic runners. We got a question here in the front.
Spencer is saying.
Oh, Spencer is giving me the hook. He's telling me I have no time, so.
But yeah, we'll be outside the booth, so.
Yeah.
So here's what I will say. We know you probably have a bunch of questions and we want to get them all answered. So please find us outside or get in touch with us after Lens. We will get all of your questions answered. We hope this was informative and we're looking forward to the future of AI. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, guys.